Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today I'm involved in the Aussie YouTube hop, and this is a YouTube hop for August 2019, and the theme is to limit your surprise and let animals inspire you. So we've been limited to 6 things, so I've chosen these oil pastels, some collage papers. The oil pastels are water soluble. This stencil, some paint. I cheated and had 4 colours, my Stabilo oil pencil and paint markers, and I again chose 2. So for the paint I chose a turquoise, a red and a yellow and some white, and I'm using the white as my gesso. I'm working in my Dina Wakley journal. This is a medium-sized journal, and I'm working on a burlap page. Now the burlap I actually pre-prepared when I did the previous page. I used the pieces of napkins that we don't use in our collages and glued it over the top of the burlap because I like having something over the top to kind of close the holes. 1, so paint doesn't go through to the other side, and 2, I still get the texture almost like a thick canvas, but it's easier to paint over. So while the white paint was dry, I'm just going in with the 3 other colours I had and just sort of mixing them in. And you can see on my other page, I'm cleaning off my brush, so I'm kind of getting 2 pages for the price of 1. I really like the page on the other side. Then I'm using the end of a paintbrush to draw into my wet paint, so you can sort of see that scribbles and hearts and all sorts of things happening over the page. Now at this stage it suddenly struck me that I hadn't used the collage papers that I actually wanted to put in the background and paint over the top, which was a bit dumb, but I do involve the collage papers in the end. I've then gone back in with my Stabilo oil pencil and done some scribbling as well, and the good thing about the Stabilo oil pencil is it's a water activated pencil, so when you put it into something damp like wet paint, it does actually activate it and you get this darker line as you go through. Because I've got the tissue paper over the burlap, it also helps the paint to dry a little bit more quickly than usual. So if it was just burlap sort of sitting on wet, it's basically a fabric, a material, it takes a little bit longer to dry. So by having that tissue there, it sort of prevents that somewhat. Oh, it's just a little brief pause while I was trying to find my gel medium. So I'm just going in now and gluing down some collage tissues. In my collage box, I did limit myself to what I had in my collage box. So I had some of this Tim Holtz tissue. I like this because you get sort of black lines through it, but it is transparent. I've got some text papers and some music and some other bits and pieces in there. So I decided, seeing I forgot to put my collage in the background, that I was going to make my animal, which is going to be a very sort of stylized, whimsical bunny, out of my collage papers. I also found these collage papers in my stash, which worked really, really well with the colors I had in the background. So just adding in that extra piece of red, I can't get my words out today, and also adding in some extra white because I had these grand plans of having lots of white space on it, and I'm a terror for white space. I tend to cover it all up. So by adding sort of some in with collage papers, that helped out with my piece in the end. This piece of paper is a piece of my collage that I have scanned into my computer and printed out onto sticker paper, and I really like this sort of scallop edge. So I've just peeled off sticker paper and stuck it down, and I've been quite generous in my matte medium as I've been gluing everything down just to make sure that everything's sort of set, and it is matte gel medium, so it gives a good tooth to the page. Now I'm going back in with some white to kind of blend in my collage pieces a little bit. You can see sort of giving that blended edge to it, and also again to put in some more of that white space on the page. And then with my Stabilo oil pencil, while it's dry, I'm going back in and drawing again. Excuse me. Now this piece is inspired by a picture or the artwork of Kate Crane, who on Instagram is called the Catherine Wheel. She's an English artist, and she does lots of these whimsical sort of creatures, but also lots of this kind of mark making pattern making in the background, which I really love. And the reason I chose to do this was a friend of mine is going through a bit of a difficult time, and there was just something about this, the gentleness of it and the message at the end, that really sort of made me think of her as I was drawing it. So this piece was really sort of strongly tied to her. So I'm going in now with my water soluble oil pastels. These ones are called Portfolio crayons. They are from they're a subsidiary of Crayola, I think. They're amazing. They're really, really creamy. I blend them out with my fingers a lot. I think I don't have them to compare them, but I think gelatos or I do have distressed crayons would work in the same way. But I just really love the colour palette of these Portfolio crayons, and I use them so often. And again, I was a little bit cheeky with this because it is grab 6, but it wasn't specified that it was just 6 items or, you know, an item, but how many colours of that item. So I did grab my set of Portfolio, so I did have the colours, which was really handy when I needed to sort of have a grey for my rabbit. I could use that. Now you can see I've got some water on there to soften the oil pastel, and also because I wanted to see some of that text coming through from the background. I'm also putting in a little bit of white just to again blend it down and give some highlights to my animal, and mix it all in again. So you can see I've got a wet wipe there. I'm sort of rubbing some bits off and sponging it off. When I put the grey on, I went on really, really thick, so I had some left on my finger, and again you can see how I spread that out on the next page. And I often do that when I'm creating, sort of do 2 things at once. One thing you do need to be aware, I love the effect of this, but some people may not, is I heat set all of that when I was finished. Now obviously it's a very creamy oil pastel, it is going to melt. It sort of gets this beautiful shine to it. It makes it a lot easier to smudge and move. So just be aware though, if you are doing this and you don't want it to smudge and move, or you're heating it and don't think about it, it could transfer onto the other page. It's an effect I really love, but it's just something to be careful of. So I made this sort of funny looking rabbit, and again because my friend's kind of going through a hard time, it's not the happiest looking rabbit at the moment, but that's okay because not everything has to be happy, and the background's happy. So all those beautiful primary colours in the background, you've got this sort of darker figure coming out of it. I'm just going around the rabbit with some dark blues and a dark purple just to sort of give some shadowing to it, so it again pushes it out into the foreground. And then I'm going back in with my Stabilo oil pencil and just drawing into the background again, just some really simple flower shapes with my pencil. And when I was sort of deciding what my grab 6 was going to be, or what I was going to do for this project, I was probably a little bit cheeky. I planned to ask my husband to go into my art studio and just choose 6 things for me to use. But the last time he did that, he chose about 5 pens and 1 pot of ink, and it made it really hard to do anything. So when I was doing this, I was a little bit strategic about what I chose. I knew that if I had paint and my Stabilo oil pencil and the oil pastels, I could make a range of different colours. I knew the Stabilo oil pencil would go over the top of some things, and I knew that the paint markers would go over the top as well. So I kind of chose things that would go together a little bit. That's probably not the right way to do it, but it worked for me. And even so, limiting my palette really made me think about how this is all going together and how I was going to make it all work together. So you can see here I'm working on both sides of the page. Having that page again to prime my marker was really handy and clean it off. Because I'm going over the oil pastels as well, it goes over it beautifully, but it does get a little bit mucky, so just having something you can clean it off on works really well. You can see here I'm just drawing over that oil pastel, and it's standing up beautifully to it. So it's not transferring too much to the paint marker, and even the next day nothing has shifted from it. So I'm just going in with the white to add in some extra highlights, and I find, for me personally, because I tend to cover up a lot of my white in the background, going back in with a paint marker at the end really helps. And now I'm just finally going in with some of my crayons to put some mark making in and writing my quote. I'm also going to put in some whiskers for my rabbit, sorry. Trying to think about what I'm doing. Just figuring it out, drawing in his nose again because I put a little bit of pink on there and it kind of went everywhere. I also had this bright idea that I was going to put Saturday on here. I don't know why. I just had that little bit of collage sitting in my tub and I decided I needed to use it. Now I got to this point and a bit like the collage papers, I completely forgot that I hadn't used my stencil yet. So I decided that I was going to just use it on the body of the rabbit. I'm also currently looking for my white paint. I've since discovered that I buried it at the bottom of my collage papers, so I haven't really cheated. It is still white paint I used, it was just out of a different bottle. And I'm just sponging on really, really lightly so I get this pattern on my rabbit. I decided also I would put some of the pattern into the background. I sort of put some of the blues and reds in. I thought I could add a little bit of yellow. And I'm again cleaning off the excess on my sponge over on my other page. So it's just a really handy thing to have. I tend to do 2 pages at once. And having that extra page to work on at the same time just gives you a little bit of freedom of what you're doing and playing around with. So I did go in with some of the red to put on the background, and then I mixed some of the red and white to make a sort of pink colour, so again sort of echo the ears and the nose of the rabbit. I was trying to darken up my whiskers and just around my rabbit. Usually I would water activate my Stabilo oil pencil, but because I had the oil pastel on here, I didn't really want to put too much water nearby it, and it was dark enough as is that I didn't activate it. So at the moment, I'm going through and trying to find a quote to put on this page. And believe it or not, it really took me a long time. When I'm looking for quotes on a page, I tend to go to Pinterest and think of something, a word to describe, sort of keyword to describe what I'm looking for. So it might be strong women or brave, or this one sort of one day at a time, be kind to yourself. So what I put in was kind, or kind quotes into Pinterest, and I was looking for short sort of 4 or 5 word quotes and I couldn't find them because all of them were really long. So I just decided to write this, which again tied in with my friend and what I was thinking about it, because this is what she needs to do, just take one day at a time, and she needs to be really kind to herself. So I'm writing that out. I really like this style of font where you sort of elongate some of your letters and make it look a little bit abstracty, and it just sort of tied together the whimsical nature of the whole thing. Then I decided I needed to draw in the stomach of the rabbit as well, just to finish it off. So here are some close-ups of the finished page. I had a ball making this page. It only took me less than an hour to put all this together, but it was such fun. I did cheat somewhat and go back with a black paint marker to go over my quote, just to pop it out from the background. So to join in on this hop, in my description box below, you will find a link to the next person in this hop who's used the same theme as the same thing, grab 6 and an animal theme, to do something completely different. So hop along to their YouTube video, then go on to your next one and the next one, and so on until you come back to my video. There's also going to be a link in the box below to everyone's YouTube channel, just in case you get lost along the way. And there's also going to be a link to our Facebook group and the Instagram hashtag, so if you do get inspired by this and want to join in on all our fun, that you can hashtag yourself and join in. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching this project, and until next time, bye for now.